Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. New patch is out, and we have some crazy changes to Path of Champions. They didn't add any new champions themselves, but we got epic relics, a new shop, tons of changes, buffs, nerfs. There's a whole bunch here. Let's just get into it. I'm only going to be touching on the cards that are going to directly impact Path of Champions. First up, we have Fish Fight. This is in a couple champions decks. So it's going from a 2 cost to a 3 cost. So that'll just make it a little bit worse. I believe this is both in the Vayne deck and potentially in the Jax deck, and functions as a removal spell. So just going to be a little bit weaker there. Poro King, they're changing his level up. So now when he levels up, he's going to immediately create a special snacks in hand, whereas before you had to still play another unit for him to be able to make that first special snacks. So making that a little bit better. And they're changing the Frosted Snack to now Frostbite an enemy instead of Frostbite an enemy with 3 or less health, making that a lot better. Bristlehog, this is in the Nidalee deck, changing it to the first time an ally transforms, grant me 2 power and 1 health. So a nice little buff there. Nami, this is a pretty big change. So they're changing her level up from you've gained 7 or more spell mana to you've played 6 or more spells with an allied Nami in play. So Nami needs to be on the board, but when she's on the board, if you play 6 or more spells, she'll then level up. So it'll be a little bit more difficult, but still shouldn't be too bad, but the extra power you're getting because of that is massive. So before, when you play a spell, grant 2 power to the weakest other ally that isn't immobile. Now it's when you play a spell, grant 2 power and 1 health to the weakest other ally that isn't immobile. So you're now not only buffing up the power of your units, but also buffing up their health, which will be very powerful. They're slightly changing Jax's level up. Before, it was equipped allies have struck for 12 or more total damage. Now it's level up you've attacked with 16 or total power of equipped allies. So this time the allies don't actually have to strike, you just need to attack with 16 or more power. Don't think this should have too massive of a change for us. It'll be about the same difficulty to level up Jax. Here's a pretty big one. Lee Sin, they're reverting a change they did a while ago. Now his level up is you've played 8 or more spells instead of 10 or more spells. This is actually quite nice. When they made this change before, it really hurt Lee Sin. Before, he was normally leveling up by the time you played him, but when it goes to 10 spells, normally he's actually not leveled up. So it did make a pretty big difference. This should really help Lee Sin, and he definitely needs a lot of help. Yone, they're reducing it to 6 cost from a 7 cost. This is in Yasuo's deck, and I believe also Jhin, making that a little bit easier to play, but again, shouldn't have a massive change. Rhyme Fang Wolf, getting 1 extra power. Doesn't really matter, this is in the Ashe deck. Normally you're just using it to kill units with that 0 power, so its actual damage doesn't really matter, but a nice little buff there. The Warding Stone's getting 1 extra health. This is in the Ornn deck. Probably won't really make a difference. Abyssal Guard is now getting a tune, so this will be nice for Nami, but again, not a major change, but should just make it slightly better. Alright, that's it for the card adjustments. Now on to the interesting things. So they're adding a shop to the game called the Emporium. Now in this shop, it's going to be personalized for each person, so everyone's going to see different things, and there'll be different offers from common to legendary, and you can buy it with green shards, coins, and stardust. Now, I'm guessing that the different things you purchase will cost different currencies, so there might be one item you can only buy for green shards, one you can only buy for coins, and one you can only buy for stardust. That would be my guess, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, if you don't play that much Path of Champions, you're probably not going to get that many Path of Champions items in here, but if you mostly play Path of Champions, then most of what you get should be Path related, but probably not everything. Now this is very important, especially for Path of Champions. The introduction of Stardust and Epic Relics. So for Stardust, duplicate champion fragments and relics will now be converted into Stardust instead of the wild fragments. Stardust can be used to purchase golden reliquaries or to buy some Path of Champions specific items that are offered in the Emporium. Now, we don't really know what those Path of Champions specific items are, other than the golden reliquaries or potentially being able to buy the epic relics. Now, these golden reliquaries, this should be a guaranteed way to get a new relic, and probably also where you get the epic relics from. These should have the duplicate protection, so you shouldn't get any duplicate relics from this. So they're finally adding a way that we can buy relics in the game, which is amazing. And with this, they're adding these epic relics, which are incredibly powerful and only obtainable through this new system. And here are the upcoming relics. So we have Chosen by the Stars, Fated, Empower 10, Overwhelm, Regen, and Challenger. So Fated, when you target this unit with a spell, they get 1/1. Then the Empower 10, if they have over 10 power, or 10 power or more, they then get these 3 keywords, which will be quite strong. Death's Foil. While I'm attacking, I can't die or take damage, so very similar to Set. Disciple of Shadows. I cost 1 less for each ally in play, then play deal 3 to all other allies. This will be very interesting on some champions. Echoing Spirit. Game start, create 7 copies of me in your deck. This will especially be good for Bard. Oath of the Guardians. Play, shuffle 5 level 2 champions into your deck, and double their stats. This will be awesome to play around with and give you a very random playstyle, which can be quite nice for some people. Packed Powder. Plunder, I cost 1 less. I have 1/1 for each different round you've damaged the enemy Nexus. So again, some more cost reduction, and another way for our units or our champions to get buffed up. This will probably specifically be good for Gnar, Jinx, and Misfortune. Portal Pal. When I'm summoned, create a random 7-cost unit from your regions and reduce its cost by my base cost. So this will be a relic that further incentivizes you to play with a more expensive champion, because that will reduce down the cost of this random card you're making. Spirit of the Buru. Other 1-cost allies have Overwhelm, Quick Attack, and Fury. This will be great for Alawi, as well as Elise. Beast Within. Allies with a subtype have 1/1 and Overwhelm. Obviously going to be very strong for Nico. And then we have some other balance adjustments. So they're adding a bunch new support champions to the roster, so you'll now see these as options as support champions when you're playing. They're changing Zed to go from Deathmark to Shadow Shift, and then Ornn, they're getting rid of Ornn's Forge, and then giving you the Darkened Spear. Now this is specifically just for the support champions. They're also adjusting Samira's deck. They're getting rid of Ariel the Tracker and giving us Captain Indari. This will be very nice since Ariel the Tracker was essentially useless before. You pretty much never played her. They're also adjusting some adventuring nodes, so now both Spells Chest and Shops should have options that'll be better for your main champion. So slightly trying to reduce the randomness and make sure you're actually getting the option of something good for your run. Miswraiths, they're changing the Grasp the Undying in that run to go from 2 extra damage to reduce 2 cost. The Yearling Yeti, they're changing the Enraged Yeti in that run from Nab 1 to around start get an extra mana gem. And then here's another massive change. They're changing a lot of the relics, including 2 of the strongest in the game. So Gatebreaker used to go from when I'm summoned, I strike the enemy Nexus, to now -1 power, and play I strike the enemy Nexus. This is going to make Stabilize as well as Twin Shadows a lot worse, because both of those would summon a ephemeral copy, and then those copies would also hit the Nexus. That's not going to happen anymore because those are summoned, not played. This will also affect champions like LeBlanc, where, again, you can summon other copies, and those would normally hit the Nexus. That, again, isn't going to happen anymore. Will still be fine for some champions like Ornn, where you just play them and they usually destroy the Nexus. You're not really relying on extra summon effects. Gale Force, though, they're really nerfing this one into the ground. So it used to be Scout and Round End Recall Me. Now it's Scout, Round End, Shuffle Me into your deck. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to consistently play your champion with Gale Force since they're going to be randomly shuffled into your deck. It will still be usable on some champions, but just a lot less reliable. Voidborn Carapace, they're giving it Evolve. So if you or your allies have 6 or more unique keywords, you get 3/3. Decent buff considering no one really used Voidborn Carapace. Star Gem, in addition to the allied champions have 1/1, now they also cost 2 less. This will be great, especially to pair with the other epic relic, the Oath of the Guardians. Play, shuffle 5 level 2 champions into your deck and double their stats. They're also adjusting some items, so these are items you can get on your card throughout a run. So Flash Bomb Satchel, now it's planting 4 Flash Bombs instead of 2. Targon's Brace, instead of it being temporary for the round, they're now making it permanent. So grant my supported ally 1/1. Really nice change there. Nora's Tea, really nerfing it. So now it's rare and can only be found on landmarks, equipment, and cards that cost 6 or more. They're also adjusting some powers. So Quick Draw, Wild Inspiration, Higher Education, and Fast Draw. All of these are going from common to rare. Makes sense, especially since both Quick Draw and Wild Inspiration were very, very strong. Grit and Reunited are going from rare to common, which also makes sense because you pretty much never wanted to pick those up, especially Grit. And that is it for these patch notes. This is probably the most consequential patch we've had in an incredibly long time. This is drastically changing the game, drastically changing the power between all the different champions. I recently just put out my tier list, but those rankings are going to be shifted dramatically since some of those relics that they used are now nerfed, but then some of these epic relics are really going to be help buffing up some other champions. Can't wait to get in and test this all out. I'll be doing videos on all of this content in-game once it releases tomorrow. Definitely comment down below what you think of this patch. And if you want to discuss this patch with other players, you might want to click on the link in the description down below to come check out our Discord, as I'm sure we'll be discussing these patch notes in depth over there. All right, if you liked the video, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.